Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast channel. It has been a while. For all you listeners who know me at all, aside from just this podcast, I've been kind of MIA recently, for good reason. Been doing a lot of freelance stuff, and I guess commission work. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because I find it pretty interesting. So that's kind of been the update. Another update for house maintenance. I have a new microphone for not specifically for the podcast, but I had to buy another external recorder, like a Zoom recorder, if you know what those are, that uses like XLR mic plugs and stuff, so I could record audio from weddings. So that's been kind of the main thing I've had to do. So hopefully I'm using this correctly. I don't really know that I am. So this is kind of a full-on test of how the audio works. So hopefully in post I've edited it so it sounds good. But yeah, these mics are just like a Shure mic. It's like a $50 mic. So cheapy microphone, but like the quality supposedly everyone says is great. Even a lot of podcasters use this same microphone for stuff. And plus, you can buy covers for them, like the little soft foam covers. You can buy them in different colors. So I thought, why would I just buy a cliche black cover? Let's just get like a colored one that's like red, which is my favorite color, and it means recording, right? So it's perfect. If you haven't noticed by now, my favorite color is red. It's kind of, I usually use red for like my profile pic and everything on every social media platform, because it's just my favorite. Aside from like a sage green, I think that's getting pretty artsy, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, so I've been doing a lot more freelance lately. I've been taking photography and videography a lot more seriously as far as like a side hustle. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, I started making wedding films for some friends that were getting married, and so I asked them, "Hey, could I start film your wedding for you as like a wedding present?" And most have said yes, especially when it's free. So that's been really fun, and so that was kind of a good way to get into it. Now, kind of how this all came about is I used to work in marketing and used to do videography, and even before that, I was always into making videos since like I was in high school, early high school, and I've always been interested in cameras and making video, and so for me, it was kind of like a no-brainer to go from that to this, because there is money in the industry of weddings and photography and stuff, and it's one of my skill sets. I mean, obviously. So utilizing that skill set for making money seemed like a very smart thing to do. So that's what I've been doing. That's where I've been. I've been focusing on that. Haven't been live streaming as much. So for those that have joined like my drawing live streams, I'm sorry that I've taken such a big hiatus. It kind of just happened without me realizing it. It's kind of a YouTuber cliche where you're like, oh my gosh, I realized it. I didn't know I needed a break until it just kind of happened and I stopped like uploading or like doing any sort of content. And I think for me, it was just kind of like the process of having to come up with the ideas from week to week, and making thumbnails for like a live stream or for a video kind of become a little bit more daunting and like time consuming. But now I've kind of gotten to the point where since I've been doing freelance and doing some photography gigs and like wedding videography gigs, it's been really helpful for me to kind of like hone in my workflow. And so editing photos and editing video has become a lot faster for me because I've been doing it so much that I feel like it's just second nature to just kind of almost speed run it. Not in a way where I'm like being uncreative and not making my best work, but I'm literally just a lot faster than I used to be when I've been making these things. So yeah, it's been really good. And so for me, I've been doing that, and it's been not super lucrative, but it's made me, extra chunk of change on the side as I've been working technically part-time at a school. I'm like a assistant teacher for like a preschool, if I haven't already mentioned that. That's been a life update since the beginning of this year. And so I've just been taking life a lot easier, and just kind of focusing on like, what do I really want to do? Because I'm trying to avoid the 9 to 5. I'm trying to become, I guess, without sounding cliche, because I hate when people put entrepreneur in bio. But yeah, I guess that's literally what I'm doing is entrepreneurship and trying to build my own little company, as far as like, doing wedding and photography gigs. And So it's been pretty good. And during this time, I've also like taken a ton of breaks, like going on a few trips that have just kind of come up. So I've had a lot of really good opportunities outside of like online world, um, and kind of like the real world. I guess it's kind of interesting, of getting some gigs, doing second shooting for another wedding, which was really fun with my friend Archie, who also has a YouTube channel here. Really good. You should go subscribe to him. And just other networking that has gotten me to be able to take some photos for some people, and I've been getting a lot better. And I'm trying to save up to afford an upgrade to my camera equipment. Although, I mean, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube right now, this is like top of the line setup that I have right now. Like, it looks great. I love it, but it does lack a few technical things that I really would push me into the industry and put me more higher up than other people. Because I'm still filming 1080p, which is fine, but I want to get into 4K. And I've actually borrowed my friend, as I mentioned before, Archie. He does a lot of weddings and elopements, photography and video, and he let me borrow his cinema camera to test out, that I've used while I was helping him second shoot a wedding a couple times. And it films like 6K raw, something crazy. Anyway, that's just nerdy stuff. I won't get too much into that because I know not everyone's into cameras. But it's been really fun to kind of make friends with people and network and be able to kind of like learn from a lot of different creative people in the real world. And that's kind of what this podcast started out as, was learning how to be an artist from other people online, or in person if that ever happens. But such as the online world, it's hard to travel, it's hard to get in person, so it's much easier to do like video calls. But yeah, I hope to one day be able to do more in-person things. Would be really awesome. Maybe I would just travel to other people. But as seeing that this channel is like 200 sub channel on YouTube, yeah, I'm not making enough cash or getting the green flow to be able to afford to do those things quite yet. But yeah, I'm gonna keep working on that, on networking, and learning from other people, and that's kind of what I hope to bring as I keep making this podcast channel. Although it's only been me since forever. I haven't done an interview in a long time, and I think that just came with when you involve another person, it's planning. You have to kind of figure things out, and then it's just, I don't know. It gets a little daunting, and for some reason there's like imposter syndrome, and then just the anxiety of having to do the thing. You avoid doing the thing, and so that's kind of where I've been at for the last while, and that's why I've been basically doing a just me podcast, which isn't as interesting, but I'm hoping that at least the episodes can keep you company while you're drawing or doing whatever thing you're doing on the side or whatever. But yeah, freelancing is interesting. Aside from wedding videography, photography, and stuff that I've been doing and kind of setting those things up on the side, I also recently got a gig to work with a friend that I know, who's actually an author, and he wrote basically a children's book, and asked me to illustrate it, and so I was able to get that essentially a commission gig to illustrate a book for somebody. And that's been really cool because if you don't know much about my backstory, I went to school for art and illustration. That's kind of the thing. That's kind of been the whole thing. But on the side, I've always been pursuing camera stuff, video, and mostly video, but also photo too. Took a photo class during college, which was really eye-opening, and helped me kind of establish photography, understanding and appreciating it, and to where now I do that professionally because I get paid. That's what professional means, right? You get paid to do the thing, so you're then a professional. So that's pretty cool, and I like the feeling. It's cool. But yeah, and doing that commission's been pretty cool. Right now I'm kind of past the initial, pretty much past the sketching phase, and now I get to kind of go on my iPad and finish that up. So I'm potentially thinking about filming some things and making like a YouTube video about it. I think would be really cool. Kind of sort of documenting or like showing the process I haven't really like recorded anything as far as like the beginning sketches, but I will have time lapse videos from me drawing things. I can also show the sketches on screen, things like that, and then kind of like voice over a lot of it and talk about things I've learned. So if you're interested in that, let me know. You can tell me in the comments what you might want to know about that. Because yeah, I just got really lucky that just I knew someone that also was an author. So that's been really really cool. Um, and yeah, I think freelance and commission stuff is pretty tricky. I was actually asked by my friend Lucky. Shout out to Lucky for listening to this. About doing commissions and my experience with it. And it's kind of funny because I was like, I don't know much about it because I've literally only done like one piece of artwork commission. And the experience was like pretty smooth, easy. I charged like $50 for it. Like I'm like my experience is pretty small. The freelance I've actually done a lot more, as far as like doing video and photography stuff. I've done photo shoots, I've done filming weddings, um, all that stuff, and so it's been kind of interesting to see, like what's your take on commissions, like artwork commissions? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like I don't really know because I barely have an experience, but I've heard nightmare stories, as I'm sure every artist has, about doing commissions for people and worrying about revisions and what people might say or not like about something, and then it's like you shouldn't even taking the gig in the first place because you're like, is this really worth $50 if that's going to be this much of a hassle? Um, but yeah, I think it's hard, and I think the concept too of like pricing yourself is really really hard. That's something I've really struggled with as I've done more and more photography and videography stuff. Is how do I price this? But also like I want to get top dollar, of course. Like I want to be able to charge the highest amount and people accept it. But also that's not always the case. Like maybe if I price it too high, it'll scare people away. Don't want to use me because I'm not that affordable or reasonable. Or does my work reflect that number, that numerical value that I'm giving somebody? And so I think that's something I've struggled with as I've tried to price my own photography and videography stuff. And also, like being an artist, that's hard. I had to do the book illustration, and that was kind of tough to price out. But I kind of figured, you kind of brew up an idea. We're like, well, is this someone I know? Yeah, okay. Well, maybe I'll do a little bit cheaper because it's not really something that they're like, completely established on, and that they want to like they're not gonna, I'm not gonna be able to charge them a ton. But also, what's my time worth? What is a number that would make me like feel like motivated to work on it, which is kind of sad, but it's true. Like, what is a number that'll be like, oh, well, at least I'm gonna make like $300. Like that would be something to consider. Like, what number kind of gets you to be like, yeah, that feels worth it. Like, it's so subjective and it's hard. You can look at other people's pricing. Like, I've done that with photography and videography too. What is, let's say, my friend, what is he charging? Okay, that's the price. What are the people charging online? What can I Google? And then from there kind of figure out like, well, what's my skill set? What do I feel comfortable charging? And for me, I've been trying to keep things super, super cheap just so I can get the gigs and get my name out there. Because I really do enjoy it, and I think it would be really fun. It is a fun side business. It's a little bit of a hustle as far as like there's quite a bit of work in it involved, especially if you're doing weddings. Those things can last from half a day, about 8 hours, to all day, depending on the type of wedding. And so it's pretty challenging. And, especially trying to hit the deadlines of, I try to be fast. Basically, I film something or I do photos, and I usually turn them around within a few days or 2 weeks if it's a video. And the last wedding I did was great. I did it on a Blackmagic camera. It's a cinema camera. And that was really fun to make. But yeah, just due to some life personal stuff that came up, it was hard to get that, hey, I'm going to get it to you by 2 weeks, which I told him. So I was like a day or two late. So, a little bit on the embarrassing side where I'm like, oops, I had them in the first half. And then now that I'm like saying, oh, sorry, it's going to be another couple days. Like, yeah, it felt awkward to do that. But depending on who you are able to get as like a client to hire you, most of the time they're really chill. And so I just knew that this couple was very chill and nice, and so I felt pretty comfortable kind of just saying, hey, just giving you a heads up, and they were totally fine with it. So it's just a me thing. It's this internal dialogue that sometimes we have as artists where we're just so we're so negative towards ourselves and our work, and so that's why it's hard to price things. That's why it's hard to get stuff done. And yeah, I've learned a lot doing this, and I think doing something that's completely unrelated really to YouTube and doing something that's more in person has taught me a lot about myself, and given me like a better work ethic that coming back on, I guess, in this quote unquote, coming back online and doing video and stuff, I think makes a lot more sense. And I think too, I was overthinking a lot of the photography and videography stuff that I was doing on the side as freelance, being like, oh my gosh, it has to be so perfect, blah blah blah. And um, yeah, I think a lot of it is just trusting yourself, because you're like, I don't have to stress myself to make things perfect. Just like whatever, like whatever I make, I know will be of good quality, because like I'm not gonna let myself do something that's crappy, even if I'm casually or like trying to hurry through something. I'm not gonna cut the corners so much that, because it represents me. My work represents my creativity, my artwork. Like my art is me, and so that's such a hard thing for artists. And that's why I was talking to my I was meeting with my friend who I've commissioned with to do to illustrate his children's book, and we were chatting we had dinner together, and we were chatting, and I'd mentioned, yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, a lot of artists, basically, we're just artists are just people with mental health, but we found an outlet to like express it, but we still have mental health issues. And yeah, and I was like, yeah, and like honestly, the proof is there too, because like, you know, Van Gogh cut off his like, I think it was his left ear. Like think about that. I'm like, most beautiful work ever, but it's like just a troubled person. And I think artists at their core are kind of, honestly, mostly, I mean, this is generalizing, of course, but not true for everything, but I feel like mostly we're kind of troubled people. Like, mentally we tend to overthink, we tend to analyze things too much because we're detail oriented, we're creative, our minds are constantly running. We have like super engines for brains as far as the creative side goes. And so sometimes we have too high processors for the basic life that we live, and so I think that just kind of clashes a lot as artists as we try to make things, and that's something I'm constantly practicing and trying to get better at. Every time I post a YouTube video, every time I make one of these podcasts, it's kind of a constant back of my mind thing where, oh my gosh, camera's on, I'm filming, I have this idea of a concept, let's do this. Um, and trying to step back and be like, just make it and like let it flow, and then just edit the video, post it, forget about it, move on to the next thing. Instead of me being like hyper fixated on, oh my gosh, let's make this thing, let's post it, let's wait, let's think about it, let's analyze it, let's think about it for so long, and then it's just like, it's so silly because, you know, I recently took up physical sketching in a sketchbook again, which if you haven't seen my sketchbook video and why sketchbooks are hard, I explain all of that idea of why sketchbook has scared me for so long and why I've only done digital art for the longest time. And switching back to physical art, like just sketching in a sketchbook it is like 180 to everything. And it was so ironic because I switched to doing a sketchbook, and then a while later I was like, oh my gosh, like I love drawing, like I love it again, like I'm back, like I feel like I'm happy, like I kind of have motivation to draw more often than I ever have in like months. And and then all of a sudden I got, uh, a message from my friend to do a commission for his children's book, and the first book I'm ever going to illustrate, which is like feels amazing. And um, I just was astounded at like, I'm like, what is the timing of this? Like, I found this sketchbook thing. Like, I got into sketchbooking physically again, and all of a sudden this gig came up. And it's like, it's just been so interesting how all of these dominoes have kind of like always set up somehow. They don't seem like they're related to anything, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, because I started sketching, I'm cool with sketching again. All of a sudden this gig comes up, and I'm able to take it because I feel comfortable doing it. Um, Same thing with like making fonts or something. Like I was interested in making fonts a couple years ago and started making fonts, and then all of a sudden now on this project too for his illustration of his children's book, uh, he wants me to make like a handwritten font. I was like, oh my gosh, I know how to do that. That's crazy. So it's just kind of interesting how we kind of get in our own way and we just let things flow. Like it literally needs to be so much more laid back than it is. Um, in my opinion, at least mentally, I have to like tone it down because if I tone, my brain is up here in anxiety of like, oh my gosh, all this creative stuff. I need to stress about it, make it perfect. And then if I just lower that enough, it's like enough to where it's still high quality stuff because I'm just naturally going to do that because I have to trust myself that that's who I am and that's what I'm going to do. But it actually brings me to like a normal level instead of being so over crazed on this idea of concept of perfection and like getting it right the first time. And then if I don't do it right the first time, then I never want to do it. Instead of having that mindset, it stops me because that's when I fall off. That's when I need a creative break, quote unquote. And I don't make videos. I don't make podcasts. I don't try hard enough. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. I'm always evaluating, being like, okay, we're getting too crazy about overthinking this. Let's bring it down. Uh, and you know, kind of full circle. Why I brought up the sketchbook in the first place was because drawing should be fun. You should sketch and not have to worry about making mistakes, and that's how life should kind of feel. You shouldn't have to worry about making the wrong decisions. Just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm more and more adopting the mindset of like, just things work out. Just whatever you're interested in pursuing, just go for it and figure it out. That's worked for me. I don't know if it's just a personal experience, but I feel like I've tried it in many different ways and things have just worked. When it's come to like doing photography and video, like I've been interested in it. I found YouTube. I love YouTube. That's where I want to be eventually, is like full-time YouTuber. But also like I'm cool with like doing weddings and photography right now because I've actually fallen in love with photography again, and been renting cameras until I'm able to upgrade my equipment. So when I get a gig, I will rent a camera for like $100 or something, with nicer lenses and nicer camera body that films higher resolution footage and stuff. So it's been really nice. So I guess the moral of this whole entire thing, which is probably the shortest podcast ever, is that to not overthink. And it's more of a message to myself. Maybe this helps you guys in some sort of way. Just talking about this and the concepts of this maybe somehow brings an idea to your mind about how to help yourself to just have a better time. Art is supposed to be fun. Creativity is supposed to be fun. The moment you start adding money into the mix or feeling like you're not good enough, then it becomes no fun. And that's horrible. So I've been trying to fix that in my life by sketching physically in a sketchbook just for funsies. Like I have like 2 full pages or 4, like 2 or 4 full pages of like me drawing an eye. Like freaking let it be whatever it wants to be. If I feel comfortable and I feel chill and relaxed drawing an eye 50 million times, draw the eye 50 million times. Who cares? And so it's just been so much more relaxing, and my artwork has gotten better. Even if it's just a little bit, I feel more confident, and it's just great because I think confidence comes from accepting the imperfection and just going for it anyways. Because you basically fake confidence until you make it, right? And no one gains confidence unless they didn't have it, right? Like you're not going to get good at public speaking unless you pretend that you're confident, or you are trying to be confident. So you're putting on this persona of being confident, and you go out and you talk to people. Even if you're more nervous, the next time you come back better. You come back better every time you give like a speech to like whatever. That's a bad example maybe, but you know what I mean. Like drawing too. You show up. I suck at drawing. I can't doodle worth crap. Whatever. The next day, actually, I did pretty good. I can draw an eye now. That's kind of cool. Let me draw the eye 1,000,000 times because that's the one thing I know how to draw. And then, oh, well, maybe I'll try a face this time. And then you can see how it just progresses. So I think in life, you just need to not care as much. Figure it out later. It will work out because it has to. It is life. It does work itself out. Even if it's worst case scenario, it does work out. And is this a therapy session for myself, talking to camera? Probably. But things that I have thought about and learned in the last little while. And I think that's why taking a break is a good thing, because I go out, I experience life, and I actually draw from my life to be able to talk about and like make content on YouTube. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to maybe make some more art related videos on my main channel. If you haven't already subscribed to this podcast channel or the YouTube channel, my main channel, it's linked here in the description or something probably. And I would highly recommend to go checking those out, especially the sketchbook video. If you're interested in this video, you would definitely, especially with the editing quality, you'd definitely be interested in why sketchbooks are hard to use. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on any of this subject or anything else that you are thinking about in this episode. So comment away. I'd love to chat with you guys in the comments. And just thank you for coming back. If you're watching this video and you made it this far, thank you so much. It literally means a lot that there are just even a few people out there that are like interested in any of this, of what I make, that it somehow helps or adds some value to your lives, because making this stuff gives value to my life, and it makes me happy if it gives value to someone else. So I think that's the core of like what I need to like focus on is, this makes me happy, and if it helps someone else, that's all that matters. So that's why I should make YouTube videos. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Let me know what you guys thought of this audio quality. We changed it up with this mic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments as well. We'll see. I think I like it. I don't know. We'll see what I think in the editing phase. But if I end up using this again, that means I like the audio. I think it's fun. It makes it feel intimate, and it's a red microphone. It's so fun. But yeah, thank you guys for watching and for listening on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.